So there's been a guy in England who's been working on this poster, and I think it's come out pretty good, man. We've been working on it for a while. I got him through, I think it's called Book an Artist online, and you can't talk to these people directly like on the phone. It has to go through like an agency. So at first I didn't really want to do it. It was like, geez, I just want to talk to someone or go down to someone and, meet them and talk to them. But in fairness, looking back at the whole thing now, it was better this way because you could just go in increments and he didn't have to be there. I didn't have to meet him. At the start, I didn't really know. I thought like, you'd have to be there, but that would have been more of a pain to do that because you have to drive down there, you'd have to meet him again, you have to go on the phone. This way was actually pretty good because I could just say what I needed in every increment. We'd done about loads of different stages. Like if you see the picture there, it looks completely different from the first. The first picture he showed me was not what I was looking for at all. Nothing like what I was looking for. So I had to kind of like simulate. One sec. Yeah, so I kind of had to simulate a picture for him. Took a picture with my own rooster and held him in my arm a certain way, and had him walking a certain way, and having his arm out and his right leg coming out and stuff like that. So, and then we worked on stuff to do with the background, the shading, the sun in the background was his idea, which was a great idea. And then we kind of he showed me pictures from Mad Max, Road Fury, the kind of like very dark and moody film noir kind of images. So we looked on, well, we just keep changing it as we were going over them, bit by bit, small increments, moving it towards an area where I liked it. And obviously, I asked him what he thought as well. With each picture, I'd ask him what he thought about them as well, because you always want to do that. I think not that you want to not know what you want. I know what I want, but you still have to. And I learned that by doing the movies. I learned that because you have to include other people when you're doing stuff, because making a movie is so different from just writing a book. You can do that pretty much on your own. Even then, you wouldn't be able to write a book completely on your own because you'd have to listen to and talk to a lot of different people who have similar circumstances to the characters that you're writing in your particular movie, book, play, whatever, right? So I always try and do that. I always try and ask other people, what do you think as well? I'm not sure about that. Maybe come up with something. What do you think? Because I had a problem, just say, when you look at his right leg coming out, we had his bare leg at one point. It looked like there was like in his inner cloak, there was like his leg was coming forward, and it just never looked right as it went on in increments. I was like, I'm not happy with his leg. It just doesn't look right. It's focusing too much attention on it, on the leg. And in the end, I just said, look, maybe we should just cover it. What do you think? I mean, like, maybe we don't even need to see the leg. So he done one more go at it, and that was it. It was perfect. We don't need to see the actual leg. Just the imprint behind the inner cloak was enough, right? Now, this picture, I've just emailed it, even though I'm finished with him, and he's going to scan the charcoal print for me. And then he's going to send the original once it's dried, and he's going to cover it with some sort of layer of plastic over the charcoal. He's going to send that to me. But there's one last thing that I wanted him to change. And that is, if you look at the rooster's expression, it looks a bit sleepy. Now, I didn't see that right until the end. So I was looking at it and I was like, oh. So I got him on the email again. I said, Nick, I know I'm a pain in the rump, right? So I said, look, can you just change something a tiny bit? So he was fine. He was very, no problem. What do you want? I haven't closed it off yet completely. So I said, just make him his eyes more excited, make his face a little bit more excited, because I want him different from the man who died. I want the rooster having an expression of excitement, a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. So you've got to get it. You've got to get that kind of like that ratio right. You know, you don't want over the top, but you don't want it under either, and you definitely don't want him. I'm glad I seen that at the right time, because if it went too far, then it may have not been able to correct it. All right, so yeah, so he's going to correct that, and he's also corrected his hands are a bit too pale, and the rooster's feet are a little bit too pale. So he darkened that down in another picture. So that's an older one. All right, so I'm kind of happy with it. I mean, it looks great. It's in charcoal. It looks brilliant. It looks really, really good. To me, it looks really, really, really good. But it took weeks to do it. You were going over it and writing back and forth, and he was very patient. This guy, I have to say. There was a couple of times I was thinking to myself, this guy is going to snap at me in a minute, because I'm just saying, because when you're writing and emailing to people, you can't really just be, sometimes, like if I'm working, I'm doing other things. I don't want to be writing paragraphs about this, that, and the other. So you've got to be, it comes across maybe a little bit blunt on his end. This. So, and I have to say, man, this guy Nick, he was so patient with the whole thing, and so polite and patient, and done a great job. And I'm glad I chose him to do the film poster, because he was very patient with what I wanted and trying to get it the way that I wanted, and that looked good and that I was happy with. Right. So yeah, so when the rooster's face is a little bit more vibrant and a little bit more excited, then the poster will be really, really good. It looks brilliant. It's going to be a great actually cover for The Man Who Died. D.H. Lawrence's The Man Who Died Escape Cock book. It would actually be a great image for the book, you know. But that's not really to do with me. But like as a poster for the movie, I think it looks sensational. I think it looks really, that's my view, right? My view on it, it looks brilliant. It looks really, that's how I kind of imagined it in my head. I imagined it in my head that way, because I think simplicity is really good in movies in general. Not just on the poster, not just on anything to do with that. Just say like, the story, the characters as well have to have a certain simplicity about them as well. Because if you start going into it being too complicated and you're trying to tell too much about everyone, it loses the mystery. You always want a good bit of mystery, so you don't want to be fleshing out characters 100%, because then you think like you really know them. It's when you actually don't know people too well that they're mysterious, and it's kind of like they're in shadow a good bit. All right, so I think the same thing in movies. So just say I was thinking of the tagline for the movie as well. Just say to the left of The Man Who Died, his left shoulder. I was thinking of a tagline. I'm not quite sure of it yet. You know, I was thinking of something along the lines of maybe who would come back from the dead? ? Something like that. But a tagline, I'm going to work on it. It has to be something very, very simple, not overly smart or trying to be too like a smart ass kind of tagline. I don't really like them too much. Sometimes the best taglines are the ones when they're just really small and short, and just, you know, they hit the nail on the head without being too smart, and they're kind of like, you know, they're just very plain in some ways, right? But I'll think about that later on, what to do with the tagline. You know, who would come back from the dead is pretty good. There's loads of different ones I've written down. I can't remember them now off the top of my head, you know. But I'm happy with the poster. I think it looks really, really good. You know, to do with The Man Who Died himself, the hat, his face. I had to have him in shadow a good bit. I didn't want his eyes to be seen, so that's mysterious there as well. The mystery is very important. The rooster's face is going to be changed, like I said, a little bit, so he's going to have his eyes open a tiny bit more of excitement about him, like he's coming out into the world, because he's been tied up through the first part of the movie, and now he's coming out into the world with the man who died. He's leaving the peasant's house. He's healed. His wounds are healed. He takes the rooster with him. It's kind of a very sad moment in the book and in the movie, and just if you reflect it to just being alive in general, like this man who can no longer trust people anymore and wants nothing to do with them, doesn't go quite alone. He doesn't move off quite alone. He has the rooster with him. and it's got a tinge of sadness to the visual, but in my view, very powerful, and I think it looks great, and I think that it'll catch anyone's eye. If that just say if you're at a bus stop, right, and there's the posters that you see in the side panels of the bus stop. Sometimes you see them for movies and stuff like that. You know, they'd be like maybe like a 6 foot by 3 foot, just say poster or something like that, or 5 foot by 3 foot in the on the bus stops. If you've seen that and a good tagline and stuff like that, I think it would grip people's eye because it's different. You don't really know what the film is about. You don't really know where or what it is, but the visual of just the man walking off like that with the rooster in his hand is a powerful visual, very powerful visual, and I think it would make people want to see what this is about. Because wondering about things is a very powerful mind state. Like wondering what something is and trying to work out what it is, and let's go and see that. I think they ruin a lot of films nowadays because of extended adverts and extended trailers, too much stuff on YouTube. They leak too much. The making of everything before you've seen the film is not a good idea either. I know it's hard because a lot of things get leaked, but I don't think even a lot of things get leaked by accident. I think that they put them out there, and that's a mistake. Because if you think that you've seen too much of something, the mystery is gone, right? The mystery is gone, and you don't really want to see it because you've pretty much nearly seen it. You've seen like 3 or 4 clips of it, and it's like, I don't know if I really want to have there's no mystery now for me to go and see this or that film. So years ago, they didn't have that so much because there wasn't, this grand massive scale internet and people could view everything on their phones and stuff like that. You might catch the odd clip of something on the TV on BBC or something like that of a new film that came out in the 90s or something like that, and then you go like, oh yeah, it grabs your attention and you go, yeah, let's go and see that on the weekend. We go and see that looks really good, that movie. And so I think they ruin a lot with that. So that's what I've tried to do with The Man Who Died poster. That keep it simple and keep the mystery there. So even when he has the hat down over his eyes, you don't really see his expression. Okay, he's moving off with purpose to a certain point. You see the sun behind his hat. When we first started to do the hat, the hat wasn't right. It just didn't look right. It nearly looks like a flying saucer at the moment, but I like the way that it looks. It looks very, very good. And trying to get the clothes right, trying to get the cloak right, because there's 2 layers to it. There's the outer homespun cloak, and then there's like an inner layer as well, which is thinner than the cloak. But I like the image. I like the moodiness of it. I think it looks really good. Really, really good. And simplicity does work in movies. If you try and go too complicated with characters, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but if you go too far with trying, just say if you think of the movie Predator, right, which is one of the best films ever made. A lot of people would maybe disagree with that. Maybe not everyone, but it's one of the best films ever made because of its simplicity. And it didn't have to shove down your throat who these characters are. Just through little nuances, you could kind of get an idea of who they were, and they were mysterious to a certain point, right? And they reveal themselves through the story. How they related to the attack of the invisible predator was brilliant, that these hardened soldiers would become scared. If you look at Poncho's part in the film, he was very stern through the film. If you see him start to break down a tiny bit, and towards the end, he's like nearly shaking with a gun. All these things is what builds character. Carl Weathers was great in the movie. His character was great in the movie. And it was just such a great movie. And it was because of its simplicity that the movie worked. And is why people are still watching it over, 30 odd years later. Or 28 years later or whatever. 30, 28 years. Or was it more than that? 25? Jesus, more than that, man. How many years is it? 35, 38 years. Sorry, yeah, 38 years later, right? So So it's in that simplicity. You don't need to. You can tell 10% of a story. You don't need to tell everything about everyone. You have certain principles. Certain characters are going to have certain principles and certain mindsets and certain ways of behaving and ticks and stuff like that. That's all you really need. And to cast the movie correctly with the correct actors. Because if we get the correct actor, he's will not be able to do a bad job because he will fit that role, right? A lot of movies can get ruined today and even years ago as well when they cast the wrong people, because it doesn't matter how much of a good actor you are, you may not be suited to that part through your height, through your vocal tone, through your psychology, through your just things that you can't get rid of as a human being. You might not fit that part. You have to get people that fit the part, and then they can act easier within it, right? So yeah, so the back and forth between me and Nick went on for weeks, and you wouldn't believe the first picture. It was like, to get it to where it is right there, and it's not completely finished there yet at all. The hands have been darkened down, but they're not in that picture yet. But and the rooster's expression needs to be more excited, and his eyes need to be wider, and just like he's experiencing things for the first time, wandering off, and the different countenance on the man who died. And when I was showing the short film for the man who died in the Savoy Cinema in Dublin last month, someone asked me a question about religion to do with the film, and I just said I couldn't care less, and I don't care less. I don't want to look, especially now, because I don't view Christianity as healthy for anyone, right? But obviously it has a connotation to Christianity, the man who died, because it is supposed to be the Christ figure, which is not completely negative. I'm not saying all the stuff in Christianity is negative. It's not, but I don't think it can be trusted. I think it's to pacify people, which I do not like, right? So I don't view The Man Who Died as a religious film or even like a Christian movie. I just view it as a man that was executed who now views the world differently and goes about the rest of his life differently. And also, if you read the book as well, the second part of The Man Who Died, with the woman of Isis, it's basically a love story. It's a story based on nature's natural sexual relationship between man and woman. That's what it is. So even like to do with the rooster and stuff like that, it's got a very big sexual component running through the movie, because that's life itself, right? That's what it has. The underlying theme of The Man Who Died is in a sexual nature. So the expression the escaped cock, right? That is connected to it. It's not supposed to be graphic, but it's connected to the sexual phallic. It is connected to all that, but it's not done in a way that is kind of like like pornography or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. It's just to do with nature's play of the power of sexuality if it's running correctly, vibrating through people. It's an amazing book. It's an amazing story. It would make an amazing movie if it was done correctly. It would make the most amazing movie if you got the right people and the right people behind it, the right actors, the right cinematography. It would make a movie that would be way better than most of the modern movies today. And plus different. I don't think there would be a movie quite like it, right? And they keep rehashing a lot of films because it's big business to do that. So people are very much connected to, or the companies are very much, they don't want to spend loads of money on re-advertising things that are not in the public consciousness. So they rehash a lot of films. That's why you get Mission Impossible 10 or whatever, right? Which I'm not saying is a bad film. It probably is a good film, right? But that's what they do. So if you took a chance, just say, with something like D.H. Lawrence's The Man Who Died, the small novella which I've developed into a screenplay, you'd have to advertise it, or they would think that you would have to advertise it. But word of mouth is the best advertisement in the world, though, as well. And if you get like a simple design like that poster right there, I think it can work wonders. I love that poster. I always had it in my mind. I always had that poster in my mind like that, pretty much. Because as a movie maker, or even even that poster design, you have to have them in your head before you can direct other people or yourself or the movie on the screen. You have to have it in your head first, because if you're not, then you really don't know what you're doing. You have to have it in your head. That image was in my head for a long time, like that. Exactly, pretty much like that. Him holding the rooster like that, the hat, the eyes not seen. The sun in the background was a nice little touch that Nick done. I think that's a lovely little touch. I didn't think of that, and all right, so I'll leave it there. I think that that's enough. I like talking about the poster and the design, and thanks for listening. Adios.